Good evening to everyone online tonight, and welcome to In Conversation with Chief Scientist Dr Andrea Hinwood, which is one of the events of this month's National Sustainability Festival. My name is Kylie McIntosh, and I'm the President of the Bayside Climate Crisis Action Group, or BCAG for short. I do wish to start by acknowledging the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners and custodians of the land and the waters around where we meet, and whose sovereignty has never been ceded. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with BCAG, we're a non-profit community group based in and around the Bayside area of Melbourne that works to reduce the impact of climate change and promote sustainability. BCAG was founded 17 years ago by a group of local parents concerned about the lack of action on climate change, and we now have over 1,000 subscribers to our newsletter and updates. Our format this evening will be a Q&A style interview. We do have a series of questions to put to our guest speaker. Thank you to everyone online who submitted a question, and we will try to get to as many of these as we possibly can. I will note that where some questions have covered similar topics or themes, that we have reworded them slightly and combined them. Just to let you know that we are recording the forum as well, so it will be available afterwards. Do feel free to post your thoughts and comments and any other queries in the chat, although given the number of questions that we have already, I think we might struggle to cover any new ones. And now I'd like to welcome and introduce our special guest, Dr Andrea Hinwood.
Hello, everyone. I wish I was actually in Melbourne with you, because I lived in Melbourne for the last few years before I came here to Nairobi. So I'm Andrea Hinwood. I'm UNEP's Chief Scientist, and I've been in the role now for 3 years and been living in Nairobi for the last couple of years. So I thought, okay, I'll keep going. So I just thought I'd give you a little bit of information about UNEP. And then I've got a lot of questions, and I'm happy to answer them to the best of my ability. So first of all, UNEP's been around for 50 years. It was actually established in 1972, and it was established because scientists in particular were noting the environmental decline, and of course climate change was an issue, biodiversity decline, but more importantly, it was actually more about chemicals and waste that actually drove the decision to actually set up a United Nations Environment Program. It's grown enormously in that 50 years. UNEP probably stands around 1,300 people across the globe at the moment, which is small in UN terms. We also house the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services Panel. We host a number of multilateral environmental agreements, such as the Montreal Protocol, which was designed to phase out chlorofluorocarbons to protect the stratospheric ozone. The Minamata Convention, which is aimed at getting rid of mercury from the environment, and Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. And of course, there are a range of other conventions on specific topics that UNEP looks after, like the Convention on Biological Diversity. So our key focus, well, I should say, we talk about the triple planetary crises of climate change, biodiversity and nature loss, and pollution and waste. And so, of course, we work across all of those areas, but we do have areas we work on finance. We have people who work with industry, in textiles, in transport. So we have specific programs designed to actually improve environmental outcomes across those 3 broad areas. And of course, our goal is to create climate stability, is to actually prevent biodiversity and nature loss, but importantly, to actually restore ecosystems that have already been degraded. And to some extent, interestingly, that we started out 50 years ago with pollution and waste being key areas, that back and now in 2022, 23, 24, we're focusing on chemicals and waste a lot more, with actually negotiations going on to form an IPCC panel on chemicals, waste and pollution. And that decision will actually be made either by the end of this year or early next year. So how are we structured? We are overseen by 193 member states. The United Nations Environment Assembly, they are all in town as we speak. Well, more are coming. So we're currently have the United Nations Environment Assembly next week. And at the moment, we're currently negotiating 20 resolutions. And so for my part, my office has been given the task of looking at a resolution which is on the table on solar radiation modification technologies. They're technologies designed to cool the planet but they have significant risks and uncertainties. And so countries are currently debating as to whether there should be more science to inform decision-making on that topic. So we do set the global agenda on environmental matters. We certainly try to feed environmental issues across the UN system right down to country level via UN country teams. And so we cover a broad range of issues. I'm not sure I'll be able to do justice to all of the questions that you've asked, but I'll give it my best shot. So pleasure to be here and look forward to talking with you tonight. Thanks.
Already, just wondering what your role as the Chief Scientist at the United Nations Environment Programme involves.
Yeah, so as Chief Scientist, you would think I would have a staff of hundreds, but actually there are 4 of us. And so we sit within the executive office of UNEP. But what that means is we actually work across the divisions and the regions. So we have 3 big divisions, ecosystems, we have a new climate change division, and we have economy and industry division. And we also have early warning and assessments. And then we have staff in our regions, in Bangkok, in Lebanon. We also have an office in Panama, Washington, and of course here in Africa as well. So we have regional representation as well as Nairobi, which is the headquarters of UNEP.